Well, welcome back. We have moved on from chapter 2 and we're moving into chapter 3 here in the letter of 1 Timothy in our series AIM, looking at how the church is aimed at love. And last week we looked at the roles of men and women in the church and how they can work in their specific and distinct roles in the church to keep the church aimed at love. And what we're going to do today is we're going to zoom in on the roles of men who are called to step up into leadership, and we're going to dig into that a little bit and see that there's actually qualifications for these men as elders. Listen, with what we talked about last week, I think it's important to note that whenever Paul says that men are to lead in the church, that they're to step up, that it doesn't mean that men just get to lead because they are male. There's something much deeper and something underneath that, and qualifications that have to be met if somebody's going to lead in the church. And so we're going to dig into those here starting in chapter 3. Read with me chapter 3 starting at verse 1. Paul says, "The saying is trustworthy. If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task. Therefore, an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not a lover of money." And what Paul is doing here in the first part of chapter 3 is he's unpacking what it looks like to be an overseer. When we're thinking about an overseer, it's another way to understand the role or the office of a pastor or an elder. And he's saying there's high qualifications for that. And what he does is he starts out by looking at internal qualifications. And what we're going to look at next time is that there's external qualifications as well. But with these internal qualifications, he starts and says that these are things that this man needs to be able to control and be able to pay attention to in his own heart and in his own life. First thing he says is that they're to be above reproach. That just means that they live to a high standard. And he says the husband of one wife. This is somebody that prioritizes his wife and prioritizes his family and only his wife. This isn't somebody that's flirting with other women or somebody that is constantly looking outside of his own wife for some sort of gratification. This is somebody that understands the role of a husband and holds that to high esteem and pays careful attention to what it means to be a husband. He says sober-minded. This means just not affected by outside circumstances or dependent and reliant on something outside of what God gives him. It says self-controlled, being able to deal with challenging circumstances and challenging situations and being able to stay self-controlled over those things. Respectable. This is somebody that carries himself in a certain way that people look up to him and that respect him. It says hospitable. This is somebody that's able to welcome people in to his home and to his life, and it's easy to approach this person. And it says able to teach. If somebody can meet a lot of these qualifications but doesn't have the ability to communicate and connect with people in a winsome way, well, then that's a red flag. It says not a drunkard. That's self-explanatory, talking about being dependent on alcohol. Not violent in the way that they treat people, but instead gentle. Not quarrelsome, not causing fights, and not a lover of money. You notice we have a lot of things that this person should be. Definitely respectable, husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled. And then we do have some things that might be red flags of things that these leaders should not be. Of not quarrelsome, not a drunkard, not violent, and not a lover of money. All of these things should cause us to look at people who want to lead, to ensure that they meet a high standard, that they're living above reproach. So that those in the church can look at their leaders and get a picture of what their true leader is like in Jesus Christ. And when overseers understand this role, whenever people that are in leadership understand the high qualifications of this role, then that helps keep the church aimed on what it should be, and that's love.